Good morning. I'm Dominic. You might be able to see my name there on the screen. It's good to see you this morning, or for you to see me, maybe. I don't know. I can't really see you. So we're going to spend the next half hour doing a little bit of mindfulness. So we'll have two meditations, and in between, I'll tell a story and say a few words. So, if you're new to mindfulness, the important thing to remember is that it's not just a technique. There is a little bit of technique involved, but you don't have to be good at it. In fact, I've been doing it for over 20 years, and I'm not even sure that I'm very good at it, but I know it when it's real, you know? So, we're going to take some time to look after ourselves, to maybe just soften the critical voice that is often inside in our heads, particularly when we're going through a tough time. So I'm going to ring a bell at the beginning and at the end of the meditation. So my bell is here. It's what they call a singing bowl, and I have my little beater here, and I just have to adjust the settings so that you can hear the bell. So what we're going to do now is to remember that we are actually sitting on a chair, if you are sitting on a chair. And we take that for granted because we do it all the time. But, I could be physically on the chair, but is my mind also on the chair? Am I really here, or am I wandering down the street in Nace, or am I in the future or in the past? And some of you will know that a phrase that's often associated with mindfulness is that it's about being in the present moment. And being in the present moment is a big deal because most of the time we don't really spend much time there, in mentally at least. It's like we're worried or planning the future, or we're thinking about the past and maybe having sad feelings about the way it went, or the way it failed to go, or whatever. And that can happen at a very unconscious level. And what we try to do with mindfulness is we try to come into the present moment and open to it and recognize that actually, generally speaking, we can be with the present moment, even if stuff is going on that we don't like. All we have to do is to take it one breath at a time. So you might like to close the eyes if maybe you've already done so, and you can experiment by closing them and opening them at different times. I'll be working a little bit with the flow of the breath going in and out of the body. For some people, that's okay. And occasionally you'll meet somebody for whom it feels uncomfortable, and you don't have to apologize if you're that person. I understand that myself quite a bit. You can always give your attention to somewhere else, like the hands or the feet. And remembering also that you don't have to follow any of these instructions if they feel uncomfortable, or if you feel that it's not right for you at this moment. You can leave the room, you can come back. The most important thing for this half hour is it's an exercise in taking good care of yourself. So allowing the eyes to close, or maybe to have a soft gaze if you keep them open. And registering the feet in contact with the floor, the body, the bum in contact with the seat of the chair. The hands resting upon the body and making some kind of contact. Maybe you can feel the weight of the hands. And then if you've chosen to close the mouth, just the contact between the lips. And if you've chosen to close the eyes, the contact between the eyelids. And then noticing the contact between the breath going in and going out of the body. And then being aware of sounds, the tiniest of sounds as well as the largest of sounds. Sounds in the room, the sound of my voice, the sound of your own breathing. The hum perhaps of the lighting. And any other sounds that might be coming in from the windows or through the door from the corridor outside. And it might be that you might have a thought or a judgment that, oh, I can't meditate because that sound is interfering. And another way to be with sounds is to welcome them all, saying that focusing on the sound is the meditation rather than it being a distraction. And noticing the spaces between the sounds. And whenever you notice that your mind has wandered, which minds tend to do, very gently, without any criticism, bringing your mind back, maybe once, maybe 100 times, to this focus on just sounds. And allowing the breath to flow freely through the body. And then letting sounds fade into the background of awareness. You don't have to push them away or stop listening or anything like that, but we're going to find something else for the mind to do. We're going to give it an anchor to kind of steady the attention of the mind so that it's not constantly wandering off into thinking. And not to worry, thinking will probably be happening anyway, but we're going to have little moments perhaps when we can get the mind to focus on where we want it to go. This is a wonderful training for the mind because it can help us to let go of unwanted thinking, like worry, for example, or anger. So for now, we're going to shift the focus to whatever is alive or whatever you can sense in the feet right now. Noticing in particular the sensations in the toes. Maybe they're dry or moist, maybe warm or cool. Maybe you can sense them in contact with shoes or socks. And moving from toes to the soles of the feet, to the bottoms of the feet, bringing some curiosity to whatever might be present here, even if there's no feeling at all. Moving the awareness to the heels. And then going to the tops of the feet. And then broadening that awareness to include the whole of the feet, going right into the bones and the blood vessels, and including the ankles. And then shifting the awareness now to the bum on the chair, just feeling that contact between body and chair. Perhaps you can sense the comfort of the sitting bones as they are supported, as they rest upon the chair. And then coming to an awareness of the hands in contact with the body. Sensing the palms of the hands. Noticing their weight, temperature. Whether they're dry or maybe a little bit sweaty. And any hints at all of aliveness in the hands, such as buzzing or tingling or throbbing. And then moving from the hands to the shoulders. Checking in with whether the shoulders feel heavy or light, whether they're closed in or open. You might want to make a little adjustment. You might want to lift the shoulders up to the ears, And then when you're breathing out, just letting the shoulders fall back down again. And maybe feeling the any change that may be present as a result of that simple action. And then becoming aware of the muscles of the face, particularly the forehead, the brow area, and seeing if might be a little bit knotted and seeing if you can unknot that. One clever way of doing that is to introduce a little bit of a smile. This is not the smile that says you're happy or that everything is okay or that you're trying to impress somebody for a photograph. It's just a very gentle suggestion to the mind that right now you're doing okay. And then maybe that smile can show up in the cheekbones as well, the cheeks and the cheekbones, the jaw, which can be a little bit looser, maybe a faint trace of a smile around the mouth, and maybe the eyes. Sensing what it's like to sit in stillness in this very conscious, deliberate way. The head and the neck and the back in alignment with each other. And imagine that the whole body is breathing, which in a way it is. And just observing the stillness until you hear the sound of the bells. And then, if you haven't already done so, you can open the eyes if they were closed, maybe giving your body a little bit of a stretch, looking around the room to see where you are, connecting with the humanness of anybody else that may be in the room with you. So I'm going to tell a little story here. It's a story from, I think it's from Asia. And the title of the story is The 84th Problem. And here it goes. There is an old story about a farmer who went to a famous spiritual teacher seeking help for his problems. Either droughts or monsoons made his work difficult, he complained. What's more, he grumbled, even though he loved his wife, there were certain things about her he wanted to change. Likewise, his children. Yes, you could say he loved them, but they weren't turning out quite the way he wanted. I'm sorry, but I can't help you, the spiritual teacher told the farmer. What do you mean? Complained the farmer. You're supposed to be a great teacher. And the spiritual teacher said, well, all human beings have 83 problems. A few problems may go away, but soon enough others will arise. So we'll always have 83 problems. Now, the farmer was pretty surprised and fed up with this idea, and he said indignantly, "Then what's the good of all your teaching?" And the spiritual teacher answered, "Good question. But I'll be honest, my teaching can't help you with the 83 problems. But perhaps it can help you with the 84th problem." "The 84th problem?" asked the farmer. "What's that?" And the teacher said, "The 84th problem is that we don't want to have any problems." I think, it's a slightly, you know, unusual story, but I think there's a lot of truth in that, isn't it? That we live our lives and we live in a world that kind of pretends that if you work hard enough or if you're lucky enough, whatever it is, that you can be happy all of the time and not have any problems. I guess, if you were in a room with hundreds of people and if somebody who had the microphone said, hands up if you have no problems, I imagine there would be very few, if any, hands would go up. And yet we kind of go around thinking that we shouldn't have any, and that if only we could get rid of or solve these problems, that we'd be happy. No, there's nothing wrong with trying to solve problems. I mean, some problems are very practical, so like your car isn't working properly, and so you go to the mechanic or you buy a new car. Or there's a leak from the bathroom coming down through the ceiling, and you reckon you need to see a plumber. But the more personal stuff, the internal stuff, sometimes there's no obvious solution to it. It's good for us to seek ways to be supported with, personal difficulties that all of us face to one degree or another. But this idea that we can be problem free is itself adding to the problems. How often do we go to places where maybe we're in a happy situation, like you're at the cinema or you're at a football match or you're on your holidays and you say something, or you hear somebody saying, "Wouldn't it be lovely now if only I had remembered to bring my camera?" Or if only I had enough money, I'd place a bet. Or it's a pity it's raining. It's a pity it's so cold. I forgot to bring my jacket, So there's always a kind of a but, well, very often. So the invitation now is to maybe just experiment with a sense of ease and a sense of welcoming, however it might be right now, with all of the problems that might be there. So the 83 problems, obviously that isn't literally a number, it's just a figure of speech, but every one of us, if we're honest, we have problems. Some maybe can be solved easily enough, and others, it may not be that we solve the problems, but we find coping strategies, we find ways of living with them, we find ways of responding intelligently, even though the problem might be there, whether it's a painful hip or whether it's a problem with anxiety or recurring depression or whatever it might be. we can be with them in ways where we're not pushing the problem away so much, but we're saying, okay, it's here, it's already here. Can I just allow myself to breathe, be with it, and maybe not focus too much on it? So in a moment, we're going to do one more short meditation. So I'm going to ring the bell again, the singing bowl, to just take us to this final meditation. Just, just make a little adjustment here to the sound so you can hear the bell. And once again, coming back into stillness, inviting you to close the eyes if that feels appropriate for you. And again, just grounding the awareness in the sensations of the feet and in the hands, and the sense of being supported by the floor beneath you and the chair. And letting the breath as it flows in through the nostrils and back out again, let that also be a support. Imagine that as you breathe in and out, you're giving your body a gentle internal massage. And then inviting you to place one hand over the belly and another hand over the heart, if that feels okay for you. So it's like you're holding yourself in this comforting gesture, this gesture of respect and kindness for yourself. And you may get a stronger sense of the breath as the chest and the belly move in response to the current of the breath. And in addition to the hands in contact with the body, again, if you wish, you could play with the idea of a little smile on the face. It can help to relax the muscles, or at least soften them. And then just to remember that we all have challenges or problems, but we are not our problems. Sometimes it's good to give them attention, particularly if there's a practical solution that can be worked out. And other times it's really good to step back and to just come into the body and feel the sensations, to give ourselves a little bit of comfort through the hands on the body. You might like to place the hands back down into the lap. And we're going to experiment by bringing one hand maybe up over the forehead, just covering the forehead with the hand in a gesture of soothing the mind. The way a parent or a kind person might do for a child if they had a fever. So just sensing into that and noticing what that feels like. Taking it in as nourishment if it feels okay for you. And then bringing the two hands behind to the back of the neck and just kind of cupping the neck in the palms of the hands and just feeling what that's like. And then removing the hands and just taking the finger of one hand and rubbing the finger back and forth across the lips. This very sensitive part of the body. Just very gently rubbing the lips. And then lastly, bringing one hand up and the other hand just kind of rubbing the back of one hand as a gesture of self-care, tuning into the different sensations. And when you're ready, moving to swapping hands. Being with the breath. And you can let the hands drop down onto the body. And very soon I'll ring the bell to bring us to the end of this short meditation. So just holding the stillness, being with the breath, sensing the strength and uprightness of the body. And then if you chose to close the eyes, opening them and giving the body a little bit of a stretch, just responding to whatever the body needs right now. Just taking in what's in the room where you are. And you might privately want to say thank you or congratulate yourself for showing up today. It takes a certain courage and a certain wisdom to practice mindfulness in this way. So I hope this has been of maybe some benefit for you and given you one or two ideas that you might like to work with in the coming days.